I'm Megan Melle. I'm with FanSided, and I am so excited to be here with Emmy-nominated journalist, Fox Sports NFL sideline reporter, Erin Andrews. Erin, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. And we know, of course, you are a trailblazer for women in sports media, but you've also been a major advocate for cancer awareness as a cervical cancer survivor yourself. And you recently partnered with AstraZeneca on the Get Body Checked Against Cancer campaign. What drew you to this collaboration and, empowering sports fans to prioritize their health?
Yeah, the message that this campaign really puts out there that they are encouraging people to get screened, to have routine cancer checks. That is just so important. I get it. Going to the doctor is scary and no one wants bad news. And, more times out of none, you're not going to get the bad news. But for me in 2016, I went for a routine cancer check. Not even a cancer check. I went for my routine annual with a gynecologist, to do all that. And then I got the news that I had cervical cancer and mind blown, numb, out of body experience. But once I got past all that, we, were faced with dealing with treatments and so forth. We realized how lucky I was to catch it early, that it is treatable, that no one should die from that. And the reason why we found it was because I just went for a routine check. And that's just so important. And then from that whole thing, we learned there's a lot of people that just don't go to the doctor, whether it's not making time for yourself, whether it's being afraid of what the outcome would be. The thing is, if you don't go, the outcome's probably not going to be great. Go get that anxiety over with and then be able to walk out of there and say, okay, I'm done for a year. This is good.
Right. After your own diagnosis and surgeries, how did that experience maybe change the way you approach your own health and self-advocacy as a woman, with doctors in
Yeah.
the medical world?
You got to make the time. You got to go get checked. This past week, I went and did a full body scan. I needed to do that for my skin. I'm in the sun all the time. I grew up in Florida. I have melanoma in my family. Did I have a couple spots burned off? Sure did. Had a couple of precancerous cells that we're dealing with, but I'm so glad we found this so I wouldn't have to later get things cut out or it's important to be on top of it. I also learned from somebody that worked for Fox, still works for Fox, that it ended up going through a pretty big health battle, that you have to be your biggest advocate. I learned that with my dad. When my dad had a heart attack, I was there. I was asking all the doctors questions. I wanted to find, the right person for my dad and for my family to help us out. So you got to get checked. You got to do that for yourself. You need to make the time. And like you mentioned, you need to be your biggest advocate.
You've talked about going straight back to work, covering a game in Green Bay almost immediately, I think after one of your surgeries, whether it was work or family. What support was necessary for you in the aftermath of your diagnosis? Basically, what can people learn from, how they approach those within their lives who have been affected by cancer?
Yeah, I didn't let a lot of people know what was going on. Obviously, my family knew, some of the people that work within my team knew because they had to. But I think normalcy was really big for me at that time. The first game that I went to work, I had just had the surgery on a Tuesday and I had to fly there on a Thursday for a sit down interview. And then that Thursday, I actually found out that the cancer went past the margin and we had to do more surgery. So not only was I going with bad news, but I was also not in great shape. And, I'm on my feet for 5 to 6 hours for a game. But I needed that. I needed that normalcy. Like I needed to be at Lambeau Field. I needed to be working a game. I didn't want to be sitting there thinking, oh my God, this cancer went past the margins. I can worry about that after the game, which I did. So yeah, I just think it's really important to lean on the people that'll give you strength. And, for me, my job is my happiness and my normalcy. So it was important for me to try to do that as well as deal with what was going on in my personal life.
And we're at the start of Women's History Month, so it feels sort of natural to talk
Aw,
about women in the sports media space.
yeah.
You've been in sports broadcasting for nearly 2 decades. So what do you think is the biggest shift that you've seen in how women are perceived and treated as experts in the space?
Yeah, I used to say back in the day when I first started this, like when people would say, "Do you really like sports?" And I was like, that would be the title of my book. Yeah, I really like sports. Or I did all my homework because
Yeah.
I carry like a big binder with all this like printed up stuff that I do. People are like, "Did you do that yourself?" Yes, I did. I looked up my notes myself, and yes, I really like sports. It's cool because I think it's, people aren't second guessing. Oh, women are sports fans. They really understand this. And, yeah, it's been amazing to see it evolve not only in sports broadcasting, but on the field and front offices of professional sports. Women are getting so many opportunities, and we just have to keep going and keep the momentum up. It's so important. That's so important in a game, and that's so important off the field as well.
You've been open to about facing the criticism that you see on social or people who just consume media as a woman in sports media. So, how have you learned to navigate that sort of any negativity that you're seeing in an age of a social media like prominence?
Yeah, people are going to say what they're going to say. I've heard it all up to this point. My nose is too big. My voice is like nails on a chalkboard. I don't know what I'm talking about. It is what it is. You're not going to make everyone happy. I think the biggest thing for me is when I started believing I belonged was when I would get the respect from the athletes and the coaches and the general managers and the team presidents and the owners. And that's what validates it for me. Those are the guys that I am reporting on. Those are the guys that are helping me out, giving me the stories and the access. And when they trust me and they believe in me, that's enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing, as you mentioned, female play-by-play announcers, analysts,
Hmm.
agents, executives really take their place in this industry. How can we ensure that women are not just getting a seat at that table, but they're in decision-making positions at that table?
Oh, I think they are. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts. I think his entire team is all women. I mean, I think they're making decisions as well, and they are. I mean, I think, like I said, though, you just have to keep the momentum going. You just have to keep it up, and there's a real responsibility on women like me and women in these roles to do a really good job. We know that people are looking. We know people are watching. So, I mean, look, we already have chips on our shoulder, but we have to do that better of a job to keep moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. As a woman in sports, or even just as a mom, what is the question that maybe you've been asked either in the workplace or outside that frustrates you because it absolutely would never have been asked of a man in this industry?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't really know. I think it's more I don't really feel like I face that. I am so lucky that I am surrounded by such a supportive group with my announcing team and my crew that, I travel with all men. I'm with about 30 to 40 men. Our Saturday night dinner is like 18 people, and I'm the only female. And I've never been more comfortable in my entire life. A lot of them are my best friends. I gave a big speech at Super Bowl when we were out to dinner just about how we always talk about how our group is family, but they are. I don't get to be around, my family during holidays. I miss a lot of stuff, but it makes it worth it when I'm around such a supportive group. So I'm very, very lucky in a sense. Yeah, there's naysayers and there's people on social media, but the men that I work with are so supportive and want to help me so much that I know I'm fortunate. So I don't really get those questions because they're just more interested in like, what's Mac doing?
Yeah.
How's Mac doing? Who did you sit down with this week? How did it go? So things like that.
Yeah, what do you miss most about the NFL season when it's actually all said and done over? You've got some breathing room, but now looking back on it,
Mhm.
you're missing out.
I miss my crew a lot. We are so tight. I mean, think about it. We go from 6 months out of the year. It is nonstop. We're always on the phone. We're always texting. We're on Zoom calls. We're at hotels. We're at dinners. We're at breakfast. We're in the car together. And then it just stops. I mean, I I saw my first Sunday off. I was away in Montana and Tom is out there, and we met up, and I just said, well, it makes sense. We're with each other on a Sunday. I can't go a Sunday without you. I miss them so much. I actually just reminded myself I'm on a text chain with Tom and Kevin Burkhardt, and it was just funny stuff, and I haven't written them back, but I miss our dinners. I miss our laughs. I miss our talks in the meeting room. I make fun of everyone. They make fun of me. We're such like, we all pick on each other in such a fun, loving way. I miss that. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the fellowship. So it's that.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the Calm Down podcast. I think that you and Charissa Thompson have done such an excellent job of sort of carving out this really authentic space for fans to experience your friendship and also your expertise. What has been the response from listeners?
I think the cool response is when we go to games and you have fans screaming, calm down, or we were at a team practice for the Super Bowl, and one of the presidents of the team walked up and said, how's the podcast going? And I'm like, what? How do you know about this? I've had coaches at halftime say, you're not going to talk about this on the podcast, are you? Like, it's great. It's really cool when you kind of see like other guys and other girls like talk about it and it resonates with people. We were fortunate enough to do a live event last year for Netflix, and it was at a comedy club. It was sold out. We had the best time. Our significant others were freaking out because people recognized them. It was a really, really fun time. Yeah.
What are you most excited about when it comes to the podcasting space? It's obviously, I mean, it's not new for you guys now, but it is different. It's different than what you experience on a weekly basis on Sundays.
Yeah, I think it's just being able to tell kind of, pull the curtain back and show people what our lives are like. People have no idea the stories that go on behind the scenes with the coaches, the athletes. We get to actually say like how great a sit down interview was, or, oh, my God, you didn't get to go to the bathroom for 5 hours and it's overtime and it's the best game ever. And I was about to pee my pants. Yeah, it's just fun to kind of show, like on television, I only get 15 seconds if I'm lucky to get my full report out before the ball is snapped or, we have to go to break. So it's fun to actually show people we have a sense of humor, we think. And it's also a great catch up with her. A lot of the times for the season, we recorded on Mondays. So she's had her Amazon game on Thursdays and she's had her Fox studio, and I've had my sit down interview and the Fox game. And so it's a good time to be like, la, 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 this is what happened this week.
Right. Have you gotten any sort of response from fans who just sort of they get let into your your life, like this is giving your background that they normally don't get. So what has been the response when it comes to the authenticity there in your friendship itself?
Oh, people are great. They, always tell us we think you guys are so funny, or like we love hearing these stories. It's funny when we hear our coworkers. Howie Long, we've talked about this on our podcast. He has a burner account and he listens, or he watches our clips on Instagram, and he's like, boy, you too, I gotta tell you. So it's just funny, like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone who has shaped or, covered major sporting events for years, what stands out to you about the fandom and the way that it's being shaped and built around women's sports specifically?
I think it's exciting. I think, I think there's just a real movement. Like I said, on and off the field, you see a lot of young girls now that either they're not intimidated or they want to see their favorite pop star in the stands cheering on her boyfriend. I think that's really cool. I remember last year for the Super Bowl, there was a commercial. They never specifically said it was Taylor Swift, but they had a young girl watching a game with her dad and wearing the friendship bracelets and the 13 and all that kind of stuff. And it was just really, I thought it was such a special moment. Sometimes our sport can be intimidating, and sometimes, fans are like, I don't know, it could be really hard to understand. So I loved having new, female fans that were interested in kind of learning all about our sport, and then what the women have done on the field or on the court or, in actual games has been so exciting. I mean, who doesn't love, a great feel good story? And these women have worked so hard to get where they are. So it like I said earlier, it's just a really fun and exciting time to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to the representation that you see in sports broadcasting, have you ever had any fan reactions from younger girls, or what were, some interactions that you had when you were growing up that led you to actually want to become a sports broadcaster and
Yeah,
live in this space?
I wanted to be a sports broadcaster just because I love sports so much. And it was my connection with my dad and still is. And I just loved learning about the athletes and their stories and just what pushes them and everything like that. And then I, got so into the teams and the games and the history of the sport that it just really was all I ever was interested in and had such a passion for. And you really have to, with how demanding it is and how much time away it is from your family and your life and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the clear choice for me in terms of what I wanted to do for a living. And I definitely had females that I looked up to and wanted to be like. And I also had crews that I knew I wanted to work with. My first crew that I worked with Fox was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. And I always wanted to do football with them. I thought listening to them do a football game was like talking to your two friends at a bar.
Yeah.
And I thought that would just be so fun. And it was a blast, and it was an honor to work with those guys. So that was really cool. And, what I said to them when they both left to go to ESPN, was like, this meant the world to me, and I've always wanted to work with you guys. And it's cool now to see that come full circle with girls that are either at games or people that stop me or say, hey, like, I'm in sports broadcasting because you've really inspired me to do this, or I want to be like you, or dads that stop me. So it's all very positive and so sweet and appreciated.
Yeah, you've really built out a strong personal brand for yourself as well, from broadcasting, but also to fashion and podcasting as well. What is what are some of your favorite moments outside of the coverage that you do within the NFL, that really bring you joy on a day-to-day basis?
Like away from my jobs and everything.
No, just away from the NFL side of your job. So whether it's being an entrepreneur, whether it's your clothing line, whether
Oh
it's
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's been really exciting. It's also been a huge challenge. Look, it's something I didn't go to school for. It's something outside my comfort zone. There's unfortunately a lot more no's than there are yeses. Even still now, we're still trying to push to do a lot of different things. We're still trying to reinvent ourselves and try to do different things and collabs and be involved in certain aspects of team apparel. That haven't been done, and we're looking forward to that. And so, yeah, with every challenge, it's kind of like it is exciting, especially when you see it pay off, when you see the biggest star in the world walk into the Super Bowl with your jacket on. It's like a holy shit moment, like what just happened. So yeah, it's been exciting. It's been really, really hard. And there's other things, down the road that we're excited about trying out as well, away from wear and everything. So unfortunately now it's like my off season when everyone says, what are you doing? Are you relaxing? I'm like, no, I'm trying to take every meeting now that I didn't take 6 months ago to, get things going.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to over the next couple months? Okay, in a quote unquote off season, very trade heavy off season.
What am I looking forward to? Just, having building a great relationship with my son that, he's at a great age right now where he's super hilarious and very aware and funny and opinionated and much like his mother. And it's going to be a fun off season with him. We have a couple trips planned, which will be really, really cool. We're working on a project with our house, which we're excited about. So anything but chill, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate, but that's okay.
Well, with a toddler, nothing is chill. How old
Yeah.
is your son?
He's 20 months and
Okay.
he's wild.
Yeah. I have a 23-month-old, so I hear you on that, almost two, and it is, yeah, that's just the name of the game. It's chasing.
Very obsessed with stickers right now.
Yes, yeah, I hear you on that. Well, Erin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with
Thank
FanSided.
you.
This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Of course.